Unicef's James Elder. James, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Aarti.
So now one of the hopes, of course, for this deal, this extension as well of this truce, would allow more aid to flow into Gaza. You're there right now on the ground. Can you give us a sense of how the situation has shifted from before there was this 4-day truce and now that there is this in place?
Yeah, this extension that you just mentioned is absolutely critical. In the first day or two, you've still just got 2 million people in shock, and that's the case now. I'm just back, as you and I speak, from a hospital and one of these massively overcrowded camps. Almost no one I speak to has not lost a loved one. 1.5 million people have been displaced. They're in desperately overcrowded places. They've lost their homes, their safety, their ability to cook for their children, to keep their children safe. So the stress and anxiety, the fear, the sorrow that seems to now be embedded here, there's just a bit of respite from that. And this latest news is much more of what we need. We need much more aid coming in. I was in a convoy yesterday to the north with Unicef. It is life-saving aid. We need a lot more. And we need this next 2 days of very good news to turn into 2 more and then 2 weeks and so on.
Part of what we were reporting, of course, is that the convoy of 120 trucks moved through the Rafah Gate into Gaza yesterday. That also included, of course, something that had been discussed for weeks, and that was 2 shipments of fuel and 2 shipments of cooking gas. What difference has that made, and how much more, as you say, would be required?
It's an extraordinary difference. It's such a, yesterday, Aarti, as we were getting ready for our convoy, the queue of people queuing for cooking gas was more than a kilometre. I've seen queues in parts of Africa for fuel, but a kilometre of people standing side by side. That's what people use in Gaza, middle-class families everywhere. They cook with cooking oil and they cook with gas, and the gas is absolutely fundamental. People here use wood to cook, whether they're having a barbecue or if they're sitting by a nice fireplace. They cook with gas. Without flour, you see very hungry people. I saw that, Arthur, yesterday in the north. You can see the look in adults' faces. You can certainly see children who are noticeably thinner. And fuel is water. Fuel allows organizations like Unicef to get those desalination plants working again. That is absolutely critical. I've seen way, way too many children with illnesses, waterborne illnesses, with diarrhea, getting weaker and weaker in camps that are not fit for children, not fit for families. Girls of 15 years old queuing for hours to access a toilet. So a chance to get more and more aid in is absolutely what the people need. And of course, they need the guns to fall silent. I've seen a lot of unwell children. I've seen many more with horrendous wounds of war.
And to that end, let's further discuss the situation and how people are coping with it on the ground. We know that UNICEF's executive director recently told the UN Security Council that Gaza is currently, quote, the most dangerous place in the world to be a child. So let's elaborate on the discussion that you just touched on there. What can you tell us in particular about how children are being impacted?
Thea, I've worked for UNICEF for a wonderful 20 years. I don't think I've seen the scale of wounds of war on children. When a mortar or bomb hits a family home, it's not 1 or 2 injuries for a child, it's 4 or 5. It's a broken bone, it's shattered glass, it's shrapnel, it's often eye injuries, it's horrendous burns. I've seen children's bodies that they look just broken and badly put together again. Scores of children who've lost family members, many of them have not yet been told that their world is even worse than they imagined because they're recovering from wounds. They haven't been told also that they've lost their mother or their father or their twin sister. This is why UNICEF from the very beginning has been very clear on 2 things. Get these hostages home, get these Israeli children back to their families, end the torment, and we will see that again tonight. We will see some people reuniting now again, it seems, over the next 2 days. And the other one then is that we need a lasting ceasefire. The destruction and the killing, the destruction of Gaza rather, and the killing of children is not going to bring a lasting peace. It's not going to bring security for the children of Palestine and Israel. We need that lasting peace. I think that all people have a natural instinct, Arthi, to protect children. we have to ask ourselves as the international community if we're losing that. And if we see the guns and the bombs start again, I think that is a dark question for a world that has so many times said never again.
Very finally, James, in the last minute we have here, I know that you were saying you've worked for UNICEF for some time now. I'm wondering if you can think of any experiences that can compare to what you're seeing right now.
Well, certainly. I mean, my time in parts of Africa during war are horrendous. And, I was in Ukraine at the early parts. Very similar in some images, watching the displacement in the first days of the war in Ukraine, watching families pour out with this stress and anxiety. Very similar to what I saw yesterday with families. And I did wonder, I did actually wonder that, 2 years ago I was in Ukraine and the world was opening its heart. And I wondered why now it felt like the world was closing its eyes. People of Gaza, what I notice here is the dignity of people, the way that they will support everything, the way that they'll bring in family members, the extended family, the way that they will give their last shekel to try and help a family member who's sick. But it doesn't seem that the international community's support has been the same. So I think we need to balance those things. So it is difficult to compare crises. And for UNICEF, of course, a child is a child, be they in Israel or be they here in Gaza. And we sincerely hope now that this additional 2 days, some good news, has to turn into 2 weeks and beyond.
James, thank you so much for your time today.